This is the 16th video of the Forged Fiction series. If you haven't seen the other videos in this series, check out the Forged Fiction playlist on our channel. You can click on the link in the description or click the card in the top right corner of the screen. Throughout the entirety of this series, we have discussed some of the many forgeries, scribal changes, errors, interpolations, and myths in the text of the New Testament. Every one of the books or letters we've discussed was filled with important theological points, and many scribes copying these writings would change things to suit their own purposes. Sometimes, scribes would misread something and the original nature would be lost. Other times, scribes would insert entire sections of their own views into the text they were copying. There are so many interesting cases of all the textual problems scholars deal with. The ones discussed in today's video will be minor, but that's because the text is minor. Today we will be finishing up our section on Paul's letters with the shortest one, his letter to Philemon. The letter is incredibly short, only 25 verses. If you haven't read it yet, you could finish it in just a few minutes. Since it's so short, there are no chapters, so when referencing it, people just quote the verse number. Because of its brevity and no clear theological motive, it's unlikely someone wrote this under Paul's name, so this letter is seen as authentic. This letter has been transmitted very well, and almost all modern Bibles have agreed on its text. For this video, we will be looking at some of these textual variants and the reason for the changes. After that, we will consider a common argument that apologists make referencing this letter, then debunk it. This letter was directed to one of Paul's co-workers, Philemon. In the letter, Paul is addressing him directly, but lets him know that he wants the letter to be read to the church members that gather in Philemon's home, along with 2 other people. The first textual variant comes in at the very beginning. Also to Apphia our sister, and Archippus our fellow soldier, and to the church that meets in your home. Philemon 2. Most manuscripts, along with some of the oldest ones, support the reading sister, although a few later ones say the word is beloved. Te adelphi means to the sister, and te agapete means to the beloved. The word for sister and beloved seems similar enough, so a common explanation of this change is that it was just a mistake. But manuscript evidence shows this reading enters the text in the 9th century, when leadership roles for women in the church were declining. Sister in this context means sister in Christ. Just as Paul had brothers in Christ, he also had women taking roles in the church. I think it's much more likely that a scribe changed it from sister to beloved to diminish Aphia's role in the church. Most Bibles have the more likely correct reading of sister, although some Bibles have beloved sister, a later addition to keep both readings. The next verse to be discussed is verse 6. This verse actually has 4 different points of contention in the scholarly community, but we will only hit on the one I think is the most important. I pray that your partnership with us in the faith may be effective in deepening your understanding of every good thing we share for the sake of Christ. Philemon 6. This is the translation used in the NIV Bible, but when you start reading other translations, you begin to notice that many different interpretations are out there and none of them match in meaning. Why is this? Why does one verse cause so many different problems? It is in part due to the meaning of the word koinonia. The word means participation or fellowship. Most manuscripts have this phrase, but some later ones have the word diakonia, which means ministry or service. Looking at the manuscript tradition, though, is not the only way to analyze textual variants. Transcriptional considerations must be examined as well. The specific meaning of koinonia here has been the subject of some debate. Modern scholars have provided a range of meanings for the term: association, communion, sharing, participation, partnership, contributions, fellowship, and still others. Modern difficulties in understanding the meaning of koinonia may shed light on why diakonia can be found in some manuscripts. Perhaps ancient and medieval readers and scribes shared the same difficulties with koinonia and sought to clarify the meaning of the verse by changing koinonia to diakonia to avoid ambiguity. There are 3 more textual problems that appear in this verse alone, and about 4 more that appear in the rest of the letter. But overall, the letter has been transcribed and translated to the best ability of the scholarly community. But now on to the final point. The purpose of the letter was a plea to Philemon to take in the former slave Onesimus as a beloved brother. Because of this, apologists argue that Paul is anti-slavery and every Christian should be too. But this is just inaccurate. This is a letter where he doesn't actually ask for the slave to be freed, just that when he goes back to Philemon, he should help Philemon in the church. Paul has made it clear in other letters that he is not anti-slavery. But that's all for this week. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter, And if you like the content, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. And if you really love us, consider supporting us on Patreon. Make sure to click that bell to get notified when we make a video, and check out our new website. Be sure to share if you learned something, and we'll see you next time.